All right, the scene right now in Caracas, Venezuela. Protesters are saying Juan Guaido is our recognized leader. We think he should be in the presidential palace. Nicolas Maduro, supported largely by the military, insists that he is the head of that country, even though recognition stopped some time ago. He's only backed by the likes of China, Iran, and Russia. The rest of the world, pretty much, by and large, is behind Juan Guaido. Now, the military is in this odd role right now, bifurcated between top generals who, by and large, support Nicolas Maduro, and lower-ranking types who have not had the job security or for that matter, been shielded from some of the country's economic ills. They've been able to get their hands on food and medical supplies, something the Venezuelan people, by and large, have not, including some of those lower-ranking soldiers who have sworn off firing on protesters, so they are not. The only violence we saw were tear gas canisters exploding earlier on, and that's where it lies for the time being. Blake Berman is at the White House now with the latest on all of this and the administration's views. Blake.
And Neil, this has been front and center for the White House and President Trump throughout the day, as we can tell you that at 6 o'clock this morning, that was the first time today that President Trump was briefed on the ongoing developments inside of Venezuela. Maria Bartiromo actually just interviewed within about the last 15-20 minutes here the White House Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney, who made a point to say that it is important as to how this is defined by the administration and how this is defined throughout the United States by those who support Juan Guaido. Mulvaney telling Maria the following, saying, quote, "It is important we don't consider it a coup because we recognize Guaido as the legitimate leader of the country, and we are watching it along with everyone else. The only messages I think we are trying to get out there is that we want to make sure that the Russians and the Cubans know they are not supposed to get involved, and that we do, and have said a bunch of times that all options are on the table." That from the Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney, to Maria Bartiromo just moments ago. The White House earlier today saying that they are keeping all eyes on what is going on in Venezuela. Listen. Neil, the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, also sent out a tweet earlier today in which he continued to show the U.S. support for Juan Guaido. He said, "Democracy cannot be defeated." As it relates to the White House, Neil, the senior administration official opened in saying that they believe Juan Guaido does have sustained support from members of the Venezuelan military. But over here at the White House, they're also not sure exactly how much support is for Guaido, how much support is for Maduro as it relates to the Venezuelan military, something very clearly that they continue to watch here throughout the day now. Neil?
All right, Blake, thank you very, very much. Well, former Bush 43 Deputy Undersecretary of Defense, Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, says we should not assume this is the end of Nicolas Maduro. That probably is a very wise counsel, General. He does not appear to be going anywhere, and he does seem to control at least the senior military, which is pretty much the military you want to control, right?
Yeah, that's right. I thought your analysis at the beginning was very good. It's the senior leaders in the Guardia Nacional there that are really on the take. I mean, they're profiting from the oil revenues. Of course, those are problematic now for them with the sanctions. But these people are on the take, and they're going to stay with Maduro until the bitter end. And then wherever he goes, many of them will probably go with him.
I know a solution was raised earlier, General, to grant these generals amnesty. In other words, yeah, what you were doing was a little crooked, a lot crooked, and you were beholden and taking advantage of something average Venezuelans could not, like access to food and medicine, security, the likes of which not even your lower-ranking soldiers could access. But that seemed to have gone away. Now we're at the stage that should the government, the duly elected government, as we see it, Juan Guaido take charge, they would mete out punishment for these generals, wouldn't they?
Well, it seems that you know, that window of opportunity has closed for them, certainly by what we're hearing here and seeing. And I don't think that they're going to anytime soon, for any reason, jump ship. I think that I'd like to think that today will end well for Guaido, but as I said in the beginning, I am just not sure of that. The Russian support and the Cuban support is significant. who has kept, Bashar al-Assad in power in Syria? Well, it has been primarily the support of the Russians and the Iranians. Well, right now, diplomatically, Maduro has the support of the Chinese, the Iranians, and the Russians, as well as the Cubans. And the Cubans also have people in there protecting him. So I'm very concerned and somewhat skeptical that this is going to be the end of Maduro.
If it is not, it could be the end of Guaido.
It could be the end of Guaido, and I am sure that Guaido, if he does not keep a very large security force around himself, that his days are probably numbered, and that would be absolutely tragic. It would also have a huge impact on the hemisphere that we live in here, and in some ways, you're looking at an East-West surrogate war here.
What I wonder about too, General, is what, if anything, we can do about this. You mentioned Russia and China and Iran and I guess by extension Cuba. No strangers to violence themselves or putting down insurrections. We've had kind of a hands-off policy. I don't know what's going on beneath the surface, but what do you think?
Well, first of all, we do need a military option. I hope and pray that that is never used, because our history in this hemisphere in South America of military action is not a good one. That said, there do come times when you have to have a military option, but I would opt for a more covert option. And keep in mind, covert action is legal as long as the president signs a finding and the Congress is briefed on it. And I think that putting something together, which may have already been done, we don't know, because it wouldn't be covert if we knew what was going on. But I think there has to be covert support, certainly. And then the overt side of it is the diplomatic support that the Trump administration has been giving Guaido, and I think holding a coalition together. You know, we've got over 50 nations now that are standing with the United States, with Guaido, against Maduro, and that is very important as well.
You know, you hear about these, I think it's up to 100 generals, top colonels, along the border in Colombia. That's where they're residing. They support Guaido, but there's only so much they can do. Do you think that they would be trying to galvanize Colombia to do something?
Well, Colombia would certainly be a much better option than probably anybody else in the hemisphere there, maybe Brazil, to actually do something militarily. And if that's the case, then I think the U.S. military could then go in and prop up the Colombians with training, material, equipment, intelligence, the things that would enable them. But I think that the Colombians are going to continue to be reluctant to cross that border and take military action. It would be a good thing probably if they did.
You know, I think, General, given your stellar military record, it carries particular weight when a general of your heft says, go slow on a U.S.-only military response. I hope U.S. politicians step back and assess the importance of that. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Neil. Good to be with you.
Same here, my friend.